A very good evening, everyone, and welcome back once again for the Research Week 2024. I warmly welcome you all to the final session of the day, Academic Writing, Navigating Generative AI in Academic Writing, Potential and Pitfalls. So academic writing is a fundamental skill for us researchers as it provides a clear, structured way to communicate complex ideas and findings that we have. So in this session, we will cover the essential elements of academic writing, including planning, writing, and revising processes, and etc. So we are honored to have Dr. Ranga Rodrigo from the Department of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering at the Faculty of Engineering, University of Moratuwa as our resource person for this session. So Dr. Ranga Rodrigo's skills will provide valuable guidance for enhancing both our writing skills and our understanding of AI in academic work. So Dr. Ranga Rodrigo, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. Thank you. So thank you very much for the esteemed presence of you, including professors and other researchers and dear students. So we'll briefly talk about using generative AI. That means for you it's ChatGPT in academic writing, whether it's good, bad, what are the consequences and so on, and what do advanced forums say about using ChatGPT. First we'll briefly look at what research means in the perspective of other well-known people, and then we will look at why writing is required, and then briefly how to use ChatGPT. Maybe I will ask some questions also from you, ask you to contribute also, how you use ChatGPT in academic writing and so on. Then I will briefly say about what benefits we get from ChatGPT, because it is supposed to be the best generative AI tool that we have for natural language generation. Yes. So this is the university I was in Canada. It's a beautiful university during these times when snow falls. So it was very nice actually. Yes. So first we'll talk about what research means. So what is research? If a company CEO comes and asks his employees what is research, research do some research and come. What he means is go do some Google search. That's what he means. It's not actually discovering new things. So discovering new things is what research means. So Wikipedia says research is creative and systematic work undertaken to increase the stock of knowledge. So we have a certain amount of knowledge as human beings. We slightly push that boundary in one direction. When all the researchers come together and push, that push will be large and we will gain a great knowledge discovery for the human beings. That's what research means. But when I say things you don't believe, so I thought of quoting this person called Billy Graham. This is the person who discovered the language called Lisp. And maybe you have heard that there was a thing called Y Combinator, where you do seed funding and start companies in the US. He's the one who started that also. So let's see what he says about research. First one, I don't consider myself to be doing research on programming languages. I'm just designing one. In the same way that someone might design a building or a chair or a new typeface. I'm not trying to discover anything new. I just want to make a language that will be good to program in. In some ways, this assumption makes the life a lot easier. So a person who has designed a computer language says that he's not discovering anything new. He's a designer. Then let's see what he says about research. The difference between design and research seems to be a question of new versus good. Design doesn't have to be new, but it has to be good. Research doesn't have to be good, but it has to be new. I think these two paths converge at the top. The best design surpasses its predecessors by using new ideas, and the best researchers solve problems that are not only new, but actually worth solving. So ultimately, we are aiming at the same destination, just approaching it from different directions. But for people like us, who are not great designers like those engineers who work in Apple, I think research is research. We cannot design something and call it research. So with this perspective only, we can approach looking at ChatGPT use for our research writing. Yeah. For those who are here and like publishing, the dominant KPI, key performance indicator of research is publications. But however, we know that the process of making you a person who can publish, that means making your research is the dominant KPI, but everything is measured using publications. But when we ask why do we write for two purposes. One is to preserve knowledge. That means in our papers, our knowledge is preserved for the future generations and so on, and for reproducibility. What that means is any other group around the world which is working on the same topic should be able to do what I have done at Moroto University. So this is why we write. So now let's think about writing. It's a very cryptic statement. This is by Leslie Lamport. People like Dr. Shamira respect him so much because he discovered the LaTeX writing tool. So we write our papers in LaTeX, not in Microsoft Word. So this is what he says. It's very hard to decrypt what he says. I hope you understood now. If you are thinking without writing, you only think you are thinking. So you can see writing and thinking are the same thing. So we do not think through, we do not do a research in full and then write. We take the two processes forward together. My experience with students and myself also is when we start writing only, we discover, oh, there is this problem in my research. I did not properly argue that point. So this is why writing is so important. So now those who are using ChatGPT will have questions in their mind. Are the fundamental principles of research answered by the use of ChatGPT? So that means we have to think afresh about using ChatGPT for our research work. Now, these are the publications that have the highest H5 index according to Google metrics. Of course, Nature is at the top, and then CVPR. So we will use both these forums to see what they say about ChatGPT use, generative AI use later. Yeah. So if you want to go further and look at one of your areas of interest, this is my area of interest. In engineering and computer science, in computer vision, we work. That's our area of interest. Engineering and computer science, So you can go into your own area also and find out what are the great forums and see what they say about generative AI use. So that's a caution. So then when you think about generative AI, so there are ways to generate images also, but for academic writing what is important are so-called LLMs, large language models. So if you think about a large language model, these is a category of foundation models. Foundation means these models have been trained by people who have large amount of resources so that they can be used for some other things later on by the others. Trained on immense amounts of data, making them capable of understanding and generating natural language and other types of content to perform wide range of tasks. So these models are built using a so-called deep learning. Deep learning means you have more than 8 layers of neurons connected together. Actually, they use this thing called the transformer. Actually, this transformer is a computational device, not the electrical transformers that we see or the Bumblebee Optimus Prime that we see in what is this, transformer movies. Yes, so these examples of LLMs, I think you have heard these things. OpenAI's GPT series, then Google's BERT, Palm and Gemini series. Actually, Google discovered most of the techniques with its BERT paper. It's a very famous paper. I think it's a 2001 or 2020 paper, but ChatGPT built on top of that, and they were able to successfully commercialize that. Then Meta has Llama series. So these are free models to be used for us, and then other models are also there. So we will see their capabilities later on briefly. But when you think about an LLM and what to use, I think you will predominantly use ChatGPT, but these are the key characteristics that you have to think about. There are many characteristics, but what are important for an end user are the first one, context window size. What that means is how much data can you input at the same time so that it can consume that and give you an answer. So what is the length of the PDF file or the Word document that you input? How many? We cannot call them words. If you take one word, it will be broken into so-called tokens, more than one. How many tokens can it receive? So I will show you these parameters of these engines later. Then the training data size. What that means is when they train ChatGPT, how much data did they use to train it on? So this, the size of that data in terabytes is very helpful to see how good the model performs. Yeah. Then the hallucination rate. Hallucination means it, actually we will listen to one person talking about hallucination today. So hallucination, you think about something totally unrelated, but extremely fluent, extremely fluent. So therefore you think it is right, but it is not right. Then bias and fairness metrics. For example, if you think about ChatGPT trained predominantly on the things that are written on the internet by Anglo-Saxon languages, then you can see, of course, there is that bias in ChatGPT and so on. Okay, so this is, hopefully I'll be able to play this. Okay, so this person you are going to listen to is Jan LeCun. So this one received the Turing Award. That's the best prize for this computer science, along with Geoffrey Hinton and Yoshua Bengio. And Geoffrey Hinton, you know, won the Nobel Prize for physics. So let's listen to what he says.
The way LLMs are trained is that you take a piece of text, you remove some of the words in that text, you mask them, you replace them by blank markers, and you train a gigantic neural net to predict the words that are missing. And if you build this neural net in a particular way, so that it can only look at words that are to the left of the one it's trying to predict, then what you have is a system that basically is trained to predict the next word in a text, right? So then you can feed it a text, a prompt, and you can ask it to predict the next word. It can never predict the next word exactly. And so what it's going to do is produce a probability distribution over all the possible words in your dictionary. In fact, it doesn't predict words, it predicts tokens that are kind of subword units. And so it's easy to handle the uncertainty in the prediction there because there's only a finite number of possible words in the dictionary, and you can just compute a distribution over them. Then what the system does is that it picks a word from that distribution. Of course, there's a higher chance of picking words that have a higher probability within that distribution. So you sample from that distribution to actually produce a word. And then you shift that word into the input. And so that allows the system now to predict the second word, right? And once you do this, you shift it into the input, etc. That's called autoregressive prediction, which is why those LLMs should be called autoregressive LLMs. But we just call them LLMs.
Okay, so if you did not understand what he said, that's okay. It's not your English, he's French. LeCun is French, a very stubborn French. So he said two things. What is masking? That means if I say a sentence, I am going, if I mask am, all of you will be able to predict that that word is am. I going, middle word is am. So that's called masking. So why are we able to do that? Because in our minds, our probability for am appearing there is extremely high. So we pick that word. You would not say I is going, right? I am going. So that probability is high. That's what he said as a second thing. In English, you have a finite number of words, let's say 30,000. Out of that, they pick the ones that have high probability given the previous words. But the thing about these engines is, now you produce I am going, it produces going, it eats that again, consumes that going, and predicts the next word. That's why they are called autoregressive. So you can see, these are the large language models. That's what they can do. They are just next word predictors. So when people jumped up and down saying, okay, we have solved the artificial general intelligence problem, and machines will come and take control of the world, people who knew it's all nonsense. They are just next word predictors. They don't think, they cannot think. But the thing is, ChatGPT people at OpenAI, OpenAI was started by Sam Altman and Ilya Sutskever. Ilya Sutskever was the person, second author of the paper that won the Nobel Prize, kind of thing. AlexNet, second author, Ilya Sutskever. So he was there at OpenAI. Now he resigned. That's why Geoffrey Hinton, after winning the Nobel Prize, said, I'm very proud of my student who left OpenAI. So what they did was, okay, you generate a new word, and then they had so-called supervised fine-tuning. What that means is, they had a bunch of people there, and then when the sentences are generated, they pick the best ones. So somehow they incorporated that human touch into the system so that the generated sentences are picked. I'm sure ChatGPT has used you also for the same thing, giving you two options, which one is better, and you pick that. So it's learning from you also. So this is what they are. So you can see now why they can hallucinate. So if they pick a wrong word due to, see, you have probability, right? So when you have probability, even if the probability is extremely small, sometimes, as stupid as you are, you do that stupid, highly improbable thing, right? For example, being awake in a lecture by a student. Usually, highly probable thing is sleeping, but being awake, highly improbable. So now, if he is awake, beautiful things can happen. So like that, if ChatGPT picks due to some reason, pick a very small probability word, it's not probable. It will start hallucinating, generating stories that it has never occurred. So this is why, so fluency is there, and we think that it is correct. This is very important. So if you are using any engine, you have to know these four properties: context window size, training data size, hallucination rate, and bias and fairness metrics. Okay, so we listen
The
to
way
so these are the LLM models available right now. So you can see some of these models are not available for you through ChatGPT's. Now they have O1. They are not available to us. I think in ChatGPT we are using 4 or 4O we are using. O means omni. What that means is they have been trained on both text and images. And then quality-wise, ChatGPT has the highest, and Gemini is also good. Google's one, and Claude, and you can see latency, price, context window size, all these things are there. If you take Gemini 1.5 Pro, 2 million, I think, 2 million. 2 million tokens can be taken in. Not words, slightly less than 2 million words. Not slightly, less than 2 million words, approximately of that order. I have given a website. If you go to this website, you can see the rankings of these models. So many of them are there. Every large company has one. Every country wants to have one. Okay, now that's not why you came here. You wanted to listen to some users of these things in research work. So first one is drafting and refinement. I think this is fine. You write a sentence and you want to see how to better say that. And we use Grammarly. It's perfectly fine if you use Grammarly. They streamline our manuscript preparation, help to refine abstracts, introductions, and even discussion sections. This is fine. But this is also very scary, okay? Very scary. I remember, I review for top conferences in the world. So after I do my review, there comes a phase called rebuttal. In that rebuttal, the authors will respond, like in a journal. And the reviewers' reviews I can see, other two reviewers' reviews. There was one review, negative review, rejecting the paper. But in the summary, this excellent, beautiful work revolutionizes the... I knew at once. He wrote the review, did the hard work to write the review, and gave it to ChatGPT, asking it to summarize. ChatGPT, given its nice nature, summarized it with extremely beautiful language. So I alerted the area, we have area chairs above us. This review is, we have to be careful about this. So things like that can happen. So even after you summarize, as a human being, you have to validate every single thing that it says. That's so important. Yeah, you can use it as an assistant. Now think about a professor in a university. Now usually our students are better than us when it comes to nitty-gritty calculations, searching, things like that, right? But always, finally, I take the responsibility. So I read through what he says. I think about what he says. And I have a notion about that, okay, what this person is saying is correct or incorrect. A researcher has that perspective. So that, as a human being, you have to use ChatGPT like a research assistant, not as a researcher definitely. You have to master the ChatGPT use. So when you refine, you abstract or something, but always go through it after that. And literature search assistants, I think they are very good. Because all the influential papers are now sort of has been seen by ChatGPT, at least in my area. So therefore, if you ask a question, ask it to cite the influential papers, it will cite. But unfortunately, it has some knowledge gap. That means it has not seen the 2024 knowledge, or maybe the paid versions have that. So therefore, for our literature search work, it's not good enough, because we have to cite 2023 papers when we write papers to our conferences. But for a regular work, for regular thesis writing, it's a very good thing to use, because rather than going through thousands of papers, you can ask it to isolate the most influential ones so that you can get a head start on what you do. So then coding and experiments, so those who are writing code, Python or C++, you know that ChatGPT and so-called GitHub Copilot can write code. I teach an image processing course in the department. I never have to type a word of coding in class. I just have to hit tab. It will do the completion by itself. All the codes are correct. So for that, you can use these LLMs. And then I think the most important thing is brainstorming. That's the most important thing. You can use a chat engine to brainstorm. Because remember, human beings are lazy people. So you ask him, research problem, he comes, before that, shall we have a cup of tea? And you go to the canteen, then you start talking. So no research is discussed. But if you use ChatGPT as a companion to discuss your work, I think that becomes very successful. ChatGPT will answer your questions. You know prompting. Prompt in a manner, you can do two types of prompting. One is you can ask broad questions so that it gives multiple options. You ask broad questions, it gives multiple options. Then as a human being, you know how to filter out and pick the right specific option for you. Yeah. So maybe you can ask something like this. Considering the summits that the world leaders are having on climate change, what are the most important options that they are discussing? That's a broad question. It will give you many outputs. Then you will pick one. Then you will say, to implement this strategy, what are the things that the countries can do? Then it will, you see, you are carefully guiding ChatGPT as a researcher, as a professor would guide a student. Yeah. So this is the best use that I also take from ChatGPT. I use ChatGPT to brainstorm together. So you can even use ChatGPT to guide the identification of possible research hypotheses. This is a little bit dangerous, but I will talk about that later. Simplifying dense jargon also. Sometimes when you start a research area, sometimes the words that they use are not confusing. That's a problem. Words in research language being not confusing is a problem. When we say optimum in our area, that meaning contains one textbook, optimum. But for a casual word, optimum, yeah, that's fine. So you did not understand that meaning. Jargon, we call them, those words are overloaded. That means they have additional meaning in that community. So therefore, to understand those additional meanings in that community, you can use this. That's extremely important if you are a new researcher who is just discovering things in that area. Understanding the jargon. And then if you like, you can translate also using these. So some ways, ask LLM to link ideas and filter the output. So assume that you want to come up with new research hypotheses. Now you want to prompt your mind with ideas. Then you can take distant but slightly related concepts and ask it to combine in creative ways. It will look at all the things that people have written in the world, on the internet, that it has that knowledge, and it will creatively combine those ideas. Let's say you ask it to combine the university education with digital divide. Digital divide means rich people have access to digital devices, poor people don't have, and combine that with university education. Now, slightly distant concepts, but they are related. Now it will come up with so many ideas. So take two concepts and ask it to combine in creative ways. That's one way. And locating influential papers, we discuss, summarizing, discuss. But whatever you do, whenever we come up with a research topic, we do a stupid Google search and see whether other people have done this already. That's so important. Google search test. And now there is ChatGPT test also. After you come up with some research topic, please feed it to ChatGPT and see whether it has seen similar ideas. Because remember, as I said very beginning, research means finding something that the whole world did not know about it. If ChatGPT knows about it, there's a problem. So for our papers, ChatGPT cannot absolutely find a clue about what we are asking. We don't even ask, because if we ask, it may record what we are asking. Then our ideas are taken. So whenever I ask to refine sentences that I write in my papers, I always change the keywords with some unrelated word. And otherwise, because it is gather knowledge that I am discovering at that moment. So be very, very careful when you ask that question also, because it may record that. Yeah. Okay. Then there is a thing called temperature in one of these GPT models. So temperature relates to the creativity, how wild your model can go. If your temperature is low, it will be very calm and quiet and only agree to what the whole world agrees to. But if the temperature is high, it will become very creative. Then context window discussed, and enhance the prompts. So it's all about prompting. And so you can remember ChatGPT knows the question that you asked before, and it will build up on the question that you asked. So therefore, you can deepen the prompts or broaden the prompts. So it is your decision that you have to take at the very beginning, whether you are broadening your prompts as it goes by, or whether you are deepening your prompts as you go by to extract ideas from the ChatGPT. Okay. So you can see because of this, improved productivity, creative exploration, error reduction, and scalability. This one actually I have very limited understanding about this, the systematic reviews. I think other researchers know about this, so I just put it. So that's for that also there's a possibility. So grammar reduction, I think most of you have Grammarly. I think it's very fine, and using ChatGPT for grammar and error correction, it's very fine. Yeah. So creative exploration, I think we discussed enough. I think. Yes. So the downside is also there. One is plagiarism risks, because ChatGPT also has discovered those things from the content that other people have written. So therefore, they may produce content resembling existing work, raising concerns about the originality. So example, auto-generated text resembling specific research publications. So this is a problem, so be very careful when you use ChatGPT language. I think now there are engines that can discover whether it has been written using an LLM. So yeah. We discussed about the bias. See, the bias is very serious. All these things have been trained on English-speaking thinking. For example, those countries have different ways of thinking about maybe education of children. We have a different way of thinking about them. So if you want to apply it to our context, maybe that bias is not correct. Then authorship dilemma is there. So some authors, as you know, wrote in their journals, listed ChatGPT as an author, but now, I think those days they allowed, perhaps, because for the editors also this was very new, but now this is not allowed. Then if you think about the accuracy issues, because it can hallucinate. Now you know why it hallucinates, because these less probable tokens can be taken, and then you can start a whole range of discussion after that token, keep on generating words. So they hallucinate and fabricate content such as non-existing references. Example, generating false citations in a bibliography. I think now this is mostly corrected in ChatGPT, but this used to be the case. Actually, we made a big mistake also, Dr. Rukshani and I. We wanted to get some papers and we asked ChatGPT. It gave nice references. We thought these are correct, non-existent, but now it is okay. Superficial insights, those insights they are incorrect. So that's why as a human being you have to always validate these things. And then IP issues are there. So where did they discover the knowledge? Is it from copyrighted material and so on? Yes. Yeah. Okay. So about the hallucination, here is Jan LeCun's video.
Because of the autoregressive prediction, every time an LLM produces a token or a word, there is some level of probability for that word to take you out of the set of reasonable answers. And if you assume, which is a very strong assumption, that the probability of such error is that those errors are independent across a sequence of tokens being produced. What that means is that every time you produce a token, the probability that you stay within the set of correct answer decreases, and it decreases exponentially.
So there's a strong, like you said, assumption there that if there's a non-zero probability of making a mistake, which there appears to be, then there's going to be a kind of drift.
Yeah. And that drift is exponential. It's like errors accumulate, right? So the probability that an answer would be nonsensical increases exponentially with the number of tokens.
Is that obvious to you, by the way? Like, well, so mathematically speaking,
That's enough. You can listen to, this is Lex Freedom. You can clearly see that he does not understand what Jan Ligun says. Okay, some questions for you. Now the philosophical things about the ChatGPT. What does this map represent? World map. British Empire, my friends, British Empire. And we were subjects of the British Empire. So, in the world, initially, because some countries had ships and guns, gunpowder, they came and overpowered us. Yeah? And we were their slaves for hundreds of years. And then came the economic empire. The same countries were the economic emperors, because why? They had resources from their empire. And they were the masters in the empire, and we were the slaves. Now, all these things are okay. All these things are okay because we ourselves can generate wealth. And countries like ours and other countries also have generated wealth. India has generated wealth. Now they are no longer slaves of the economic empire. But how about the last one, the knowledge empire? In the knowledge empire, who are the masters? I think the same countries are still the masters. And if we keep on using ChatGPT for our work, we will remain to be slaves of the knowledge that they have discovered. This is more chaotic than the gunpowder empire or the economic empire. It will take our countries to a crash landing. Only good thing that our countries have, actually our country, has its people's knowledge. But if our people become like robots of the language models that Western world has discovered, I think that will be the end of our civilization. So therefore, use ChatGPT in a manner retaining the property that you are the master. Discover original knowledge. Do not listen to it too much. So that's what I have to say about. So over-reliance on LLMs stifle critical thinking and analytical skills among researchers. So students write so many emails to us using ChatGPT, but they expect Ranga Rodrigo to read that email and make a decision, right? I have to comprehend and make a decision from that ChatGPT email that the student sends me. That student will someday become me, and when his students send ChatGPT emails, he does not know how to read and comprehend. Because he has all the time used ChatGPT to write emails. So, in the chain, someone has to comprehend. Someone has to comprehend, not a machine. When you write a ChatGPT paper, the reviewer has to comprehend that. There is an end to large language models. A human being has to comprehend and make a decision. So I'm asking you, the young researchers, of course the professors know this, to become that person who is able to use the language model and make that decision. Okay, so that's all I want to talk about ChatGPT and so on. But before concluding, I will show you what nature says about using LLMs. Nature, as you know, is the highest ranked thing of all. Why nature is setting out these principles? Nature is asking itself and it's giving the answer. Ultimately, research must have transparency in methods and integrity and truth from authors. That is, after all, the foundation that science relies on to advance. Yeah, so therefore, they have two principles. First, No LLM tool will be accepted as as credited author on a research paper. That is because any attribution to authorship carries what is accountability for the work, and AI tools cannot take that responsibility. So, for example, we know that the professor's name is the last author in any paper. Why? Professor takes the responsibility. Student make a mistake, but professor has to take the responsibility. So like that, see, humans can only take the responsibility. That's why you cannot have ChatGPT as an author now. Second, researchers using LLM tools should document this use in the methods or acknowledgements sections. If a paper does not include these sections, the introduction or author, another appropriate section can be used to document the use of LLM. So documentation that an LLM has been used is required by nature. I don't know, other publications also follow this. This is what CVPR says. CVPR is, it has a second highest number of H5 index after nature. What is the LLM policy for authors in CVPR 2024? Authors may use any tool they find productive in preparing a paper, but must be aware that they are responsible for any misrepresentation, factual inaccuracy or plagiarism in their paper. See, this is a question about who is responsible. Papers containing citations of non-existent material will be rejected when found and may be rejected without review. Similarly, papers containing obvious factual inaccuracies will be rejected when found and may be rejected without review. It is not a defense to charge of plagiarism, of the inaccuracy, to argue that an LLM did that. You are responsible for that. How will the LLM policy be implemented? Referees means the people who read. I have heard some people pronouncing this incorrect. Not referred papers, refereed papers. Refereed. That means some referee recommended that. 1 or 3. Referees who find inaccuracies should act as they usually would. As should in CFR there are so-called area chairs, ACs, area chairs. There's a grammar mistake here. Glaring examples of citations to non-existent material can be rejected. So this is the thing for the reviewers. I will not read that, but if you like, you can go and see what the reviewers should do in using LLMs. So if a reviewer is found that he submitted the paper to an LLM, this is a serious violation, because that new knowledge is submitted to an LLM, right? How bad is that? So therefore, if you are an author also, don't write that most important sentence that you discovered to this GPT and ask it to correct that. Don't do that thing. That's just giving it away. So yeah, so that's all. So we can engage in a discussion. I think you know much better than I do about this LLM use and so on. So we can have a short discussion. We have 10 minutes left. If you have any questions or comments, or maybe you have discovered new ways of using ChatGPT, you can please comment. We can have a small discussion, ask questions, and I can use ChatGPT to answer those questions. Yes, actually what Dr. Tarashi is saying is fully correct. I think if I conveyed the idea that the research can be found through ChatGPT, I'm incorrect. That's wrong. It cannot be found using ChatGPT. For literature review writing, can ChatGPT be used? Absolutely no. Absolutely no. But to refine what we wrote, it can be used to make the argument strong. Okay, if you think about ChatGPT and read a paragraph written by ChatGPT, you will see the main difference of your writing and its writing is the connecting words and phrases. Connecting words and phrases. ChatGPT will always use therefore, as you see in the previous sentence, in summary, in conclusion, and so on. Connecting words and phrases. That's the fluency of the language. So other than that, to find the research gap, I don't think you can use ChatGPT, but you can write something and ask it to refine. But when you ask it to refine, never give you abstract. It's okay to give a literature review paragraph and say, okay, refine that. Because literature review is arguing to show that there is a research gap. Like if ChatGPT already knows that, somebody should have solved that. So so therefore it should not happen. So that's a ChatGPT test also. So as you do a Google test, test for your paper's title, you have to do the ChatGPT test and see whether ChatGPT can answer that question. So, but be very careful how you word that, because it may record that. Because these are very, very intelligent, cunning people. Those who work in this organization, topmost brains in the world. Okay, so they know much better than we do how to capture other people's knowledge. Yes.
Defense AI content, now even in our system, they are showing AI content as something. I don't know how they are going to do it. So when it comes to journal publication, I'm assuming that they are also take up this AI content in a journal. So how to detect it? And how to
Yeah, actually, that's a very good question. How to detect AI content? There are two ways that I use. One way is those connecting words. If I see a connecting word pattern that ChatGPT uses, I always flag that as a ChatGPT generated. And the second one is, you can ask the same kind of question that person must have asked. And ChatGPT, any LLM should produce similar content. What do you think about the gender bias in STEM university education? I mean, if any ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever should give you the same kind of answer, right? From that you can see. So that's a test. Now, if I, as a reviewer, if I think that this CVPR paper has been written by ChatGPT, I should provide evidence to the authors by doing ChatGPT on my own, saying, okay, see, ChatGPT can produce what they have done. That's the test I had to produce to them. So those are the two ways I know, but others may also know ways of discovering Gen AI generated content.
And observations. So I have done some research with undergraduate students and usage of AI tools. So when I'm considering that, I was thinking about, I was observing, they have just got the appeal of the apple, but not the core.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Because of that, I think people have got the idea with the peel of the apple.
Yes.
So, and also, I think that when we are extracting something from the AI tools, it's basically because of the prompt engineering. I think when we wanted to use the knife, it's not about stop using knife. It's about teaching how to use the knife.
Exactly.
So
yes.
That's what I was gathering with the data which I have collected for my research work and the observations. And so, but I have participated with several seminars, as example with Professor Gaurav from India, and they have had a huge investment on AI tools, and also with Professor Roshan Ragel also. So after referring those kind of expertise, which I have collected these, so it's better to let everyone know how to use this ethically. And they have given some examples. So if you are using some AI tools, just not only the ChatGPT about analyzing some quantitative data, maybe qualitative data also, giving some norms and analyzing in a better way. So I think we are people who should enjoy our lives by having good assistance. So I think we know so many things, we discuss so many things, but people don't know. So we can't be against anyone when they don't know anything. So do we have any ethical consideration, ethical framework, conceptual framework to educate these people and know these people to make this more ethical? So I would like to know, is there any possibility with make this more ethical and aware?
Yes, that's a very important concern, how to properly use this, the proper use and the ethical use. I don't know actually how to popularize that idea and educate people in that regard. I think it boils down to how ethical you are in general, right? I mean, but I think human beings will eventually learn this. For example, when the internet came, our parents may have thought that we would all become people who badly use internet for bad things. But I think I have a good use of internet. I think about ChatGPT also, GPTs, people will learn that. What is the right use eventually, because they will discover the bad things that can happen to you if you unethically use it, hopefully. So when the internet came in, the confusion was as large as this. So I think that's my idea, but I think we have to actively do something also, I agree.
I just wanted to know, so I got to know that there are some method to insert those kind of AI usages into ethical consideration, maybe for the methodology. So is there any good and ethical and practicable way to insert those kind of tool usage into the methodology? Or is it prohibited? Or would it be practicable in the future?
Yeah, maybe someone else should, I have no clue actually how to answer that. I'm sorry. Yes. Mentioned. Yes. Yeah. Yes. 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 That's good. Yes. Yeah, that's a good answer. In the nature thing also they said, right, you have to mention that in the method section or something. Yes. Okay, then I think we had a very good discussion. So thank you so much. I'll say one word about this artificial general intelligence also and finish off. Now people think that the artificial general intelligence problem has been solved. That means we have full AI. Actually, it's not true. The reason is this. ChatGPT has learned from what human beings wrote. For example, if it can answer a question about the US elections that happened, Trump won, it will answer that based on what CNN wrote, what Fox News wrote on their websites. So you can see ChatGPT has second-hand knowledge. How do you get first-hand knowledge? To get first-hand knowledge, you have to sense the environment. If you can learn from videos, if you can learn from physics, if you can throw a ball and learn from that, then you have first-hand knowledge. Then you have AGI. So that's far, far from this. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ranga sir, for that insightful and informative session, which you make sure that it is interesting too. And also a huge thanks goes to answering all the questions very patiently while staying here. And a huge appreciation goes to our audience also, actively engaging in the Q&A session today. So before we conclude this session, we would like to express our gratitude to Dr. Ranga Rodrigo for sharing his expertise with us today. So to show our appreciation for his valuable insights, I would now like to invite Dr. Nayani Gunawardana onto the stage to present the token of appreciation to Dr. Ranga Rodrigo. Let's once again show our appreciation to Dr. Ranga Rodrigo with a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes all the sessions for the day one of the Research Week 2024 here at University of Moratuwa. We hope you have found today's discussion insightful, engaging, and interesting. However, the day is not over yet. We would like to invite you all to join us for the Let's Solve Together Industry Forum at Trace Expert City, Base 7. And once again, thank you everyone for your participation today, and we look forward to seeing you there. We will meet again tomorrow for the day 2 of the Research Week 2024 here at University of Moratuwa, where more exciting sessions and discussion await. Thank you very much for your participation. Have a nice day.